Forged from the love of liberty in the fires of hope and pride, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, island on the blue Caribbean Sea, this unnative land. We pledge our lives to thee, ere every queen and bird find an equal place, and may God bless our nation, ere every queen and bird find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Let's all get in an attitude for prayer. Heavenly Father, as I come through your Son, Jesus Christ, I want to thank you, O God, for the breath of life. I thank you, O God, for each family that is represented here this evening. Heavenly Father, I thank you, O God, for this platform by which our women could come and we can speak, we can gather, we can look at issues as well as solutions. Heavenly Father, I thank you for each of us giving us traveling mercies. I pray that all those that are on their way, I pray that you hasten their footsteps, O God. Heavenly Father, I pray for the leaders of this country, O God. May you give them guidance, O great and merciful Father. May you give them that strength to carry on, O God. Heavenly Father, I pray for peace in Trinidad and Tobago, O God. Have your own divine way, O God. You look at every aspect of our lives, O God, and you take control, O God. Heavenly Father, I lift up the leader of this party before you in a special way. Bless her, keep her, O God. In all these things I ask, through your sweet and precious name. Amen. Good night, my UNC family. Welcome to TT Speaks. Tonight we have a powerful lineup of women, a special presentation tonight for you guys. Coming up first, we have Councillor Raquel Kisoon. She serves the residents of Cocal Mafikin Electoral District in the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation. She holds a bachelor degree in criminology and criminal justice and is an advocate for youths, women, and girls. She sits as the chairperson of the Personnel Committee meeting as well as the Education and Social Service Committee meeting. She continues to serve our party with great pride. Please help me welcome Councillor Raquel Kisoon.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, for that very warm welcome. Political Leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa, NATEX members, UNC parliamentary and local government arms, UNC family, listening and viewing public, good night. I am humbled by the opportunity to join with some of the most brilliant and hard-working women on this week's TT Speaks Thursday platform, representing the beautiful electoral district of Cocal Mafikin in the Mayaro Rio Claro Regional Corporation. I am almost certain that the number of females in leading positions in this great party and in other spaces throughout Trinidad and Tobago is a direct result of Kamla Prasad Bisesa's visionary leadership and her belief in women. Tonight, my brothers and sisters, I wish to highlight some major issues which continue to plague our sweet TNT, under this PNM dictatorship. Issues which are deeply hurting citizens of this country where it most matters, in the homes, in the family institution, in the future of our children and our young people. You see, when this visionless PNM government came into office and spitefully shut down the laptop program launched by Kamala, they never ever imagined COVID-19 would have breached our borders to make them regret that decision in such a major way. So okay, they didn't know, they didn't have the foresight. Our children were sent home for 2 years, and we were forced to beg and rely heavily on corporate entities to bridge the technological gap for our children. Fine, but the children are the ones who paid the price. And while COVID brought on its many stresses all over the world, many also argued that it provided a golden opportunity for progression and for us to leap into the digital age. So children, teachers, and parents were able to communicate with each other in a way they had never done before. There were new learning tools and innovative technology being introduced globally. But my brothers and sisters, unfortunately for us, the visionless PNM was somehow unable to seize this golden opportunity. PNM fair, so post-COVID, and we're left to wonder, what was the PNM doing for the last 2 years in preparation for our children's return to schools? Did they think the schools were shut down forever? At all levels, they have absolutely disregarded the relevant stakeholders in our educational system. The reopening of schools were boldly announced without sufficient notice, and parents and teachers were forced to find resources to equip students to return to the classrooms. Do you know that many students never returned to the classroom because schools weren't furnished? Some were deemed hazardous, and in other cases, my brothers and sisters, parents were just unable to purchase the resources like uniforms and textbooks so that the children could go back to school. And this is the unfiltered and harsh reality of the state of affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Tabaquit, our Shadow Minister of Education, MP Anita Haynes, has been so diligently calling out the most uncaring PNM on their lack of streamlining and incentivizing the priority programs at the tertiary level so as to boost our national development. So they are yet to do that. But PNM are a little slow, so they may catch up soon. But they continue to cut down resources with hopes of redirecting funds. And they beat their chest, as though this is some kind of accomplishment. But our families will never forget the cut down in gate and the cut back on bursaries and scholarships, which once provided hope for their children to attain tertiary education. I suppose Prime Minister Rowley and the PNM are quite happy that enrollment rates, the numbers, have decreased at our local universities. Because by their logic, that must mean they will save some money. But no, we know that this means that our CXC graduates are forced to enter the workforce and hustle to contribute to the household income, because while the cost of living is going up, unemployment rates are sky high and families are struggling to survive. Prime Minister, the ship is sinking. The ball has been in your court for the last 7 years. What are you doing to create employment opportunities for our citizens? Every day the headlines read, loss of jobs, thousands sent home, shut down here and there and everywhere. But my UNC family, it is clear as day that only a UNC government now can save this country. We have shown you the plans before, which were well on their way in 2015. And only a UNC government can create over 50,000 jobs in less than 5 years. My brothers and sisters, I urge you to continue to speak out. We in the UNC will continue to fight for all citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And as we prepare to return to government, we remind you that there is a space and a place for you in the United National Congress, the most inclusive party in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. And united, the sun will always rise. Long live the United National Congress. Long live our political leader. God bless us all. Good night.
You see the caliber of people, the caliber of representation we have in our party. Let us give our young councillor another round of applause. So, you know, when I think about where we were and where we are heading now as a nation, under the leadership of the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar as Minister of Education and as Prime Minister with regards to education, gate and unemployment, and where we are now, I can say that these are things to weep about. Not only education has been sidelined, it has also been made quite difficult for a number of persons to attain tertiary level education due to the gate restrictions. And of course, this will only increase unemployment, but they don't see this. Our next speaker is a young mother of 2. She's in the field of photography and graphic designs, but her passion and her aim is to represent and serve her people. She's also the chairman of the Youth Development Committee at the Kuvatabaki Talparo Regional Corporation. Let us welcome our next speaker, Mrs. Jenali Ramuta Ramsurup, Councillor for the Electoral District of Caratal Tortuga.
Good night to the Honorable Political Leader, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, members of NATEX, members of the Women's Arm. Why has our sweet country, Trinidad and Tobago, become such an uncomfortable and unsafe one? I'll tell you. On Tuesday last, which was day before, on the 26th, owner of Ding Hardware in Caratal, Gasparillo, Mr. Rafi Mohammed, also known as Ding, and his daughter, 35-year-old Alima Mohammed, whom I went to school with, was robbed and beaten at gunpoint at their business place. Mr. Mohammed, who is also known as Ding, as mentioned, is also a justice of the peace. And just minutes before that incident occurred, police was there conducting their business with the JP. This is where our country is now. The need for women to be respected, protected, and uplifted should not have to be advocated for. Instead, it should be in the minds of those who are currently governing this country. But it is very visible and clear that they cannot do that. They cannot run this country. Women have rights. We have a right to be loved. We have a right to be highly regarded. We have a right to feel secure in the environment that we live in, and we also have a right to be uplifted when we are down by the authorities. What else needs to happen for this PNM administration to find tangible solutions to keep our mothers, our daughters, our aunts, our nieces, our friends safe? I ask you, what else needs to happen for they to open their eyes, smell the coffee, wake up to find solutions? It has been a particularly distressing 7 full long years of neglect, chaos, loss, and heartbreak. And still they don't care. They don't care. The question that this current administration should be asking themselves is, how can I help? What can I do to protect the rights of our women of our country, Trinidad and Tobago? Or what avenues can I take to uplift our female counterparts? Instead, our Prime Minister takes time to make speeches and buff everyone and, of course, blame our political leader, Kamala, for his downfalls. This is not the qualities of a good leader. So, sir, let me tell you what the qualities of a good leader would be. Thankfully, the qualities of a good leader equals Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa. No matter how challenging or hopeless a situation seems, our leader never stops fighting for us. Under the leadership of the Honorable Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, she created something called baby grants. This was to ensure that abandoned single women were given some sense of independency and opportunity to be able to satisfy the needs of their babies because of the errant fathers who have neglected their responsibilities towards their women and babies. In contrast, you know what the PNM did? They removed the baby grant entirely. And instead of replacing it with something to assist these mothers who are single, they refer to our young women as hyenas from the African jungle and women as Gulf Coast. What right-thinking leader, what right-thinking prime minister of our country comes out and makes statements like this without even thinking? I don't even think he thinks about what comes out of his mouth. Now, you tell me, is that the kind of person we want to lead this country and carry us forward? No, I don't think so, and I'm sure everyone could attest to that. We don't want a leader like that. We want a leader who gave young women an opportunity in leadership roles, both in politics, both in local and parliamentary level, and is still doing so presently. This is a leader who uplifts the female in this country because you know why? She genuinely cares about the future of this country. Young women aspire to be a Kamala Sushila Prasad Bisesa leader. But I really don't think we can say we want to aspire to be a Keith Christopher Rowley leader. And I don't need to explain why, because he has shown the qualities of what a leader should not be. So I say to you, dear kind sir, it's time for you to step down and a true leader to take your position in that of Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa. I say thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jenna Lee Ramsarup. You know, today I'm so happy and grateful that I have a political leader called Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa. It gives me so much joy that I don't have to call the other man my leader. So I'm so happy that I have a true leader as my political leader. And I'm sure that the UNC is proud that we have Kamala Prasad Bisesa as our leader. Brothers and sisters, our next speaker is one by the name of Shanti Budram. She is the councillor for the electoral district of Penal in the Penal-Debe Regional Corporation. She is a member of the Superior Women's Arm Association, and she is also a member of the National Executive South Regional Coordinator of the UNC. Join with me as we welcome the Shanti Brigade.
Thank you, Councillor Ramona. Our beloved political leader, the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bisasa, Leader of the Opposition and Member of Parliament for Siparia, fellow councillors, aldermen, my brothers and sisters here with us tonight and joining us on the World Wide Web across our various social media platforms, good evening. I stand here UNC and proud, together with our UNC women who are here on the TNT Speaks platform this evening. Our party has in the last 7 years stood in unfairness and uncaring measures of the Rowley-led PNM regime. At every turn, our political leader and our party has been assaulted by Rowley and his team. But despite this, our leader and our UNC women are stronger than ever. I stand here as a strong, proud woman of the United National Congress to highlight some of the hardships faced from this Rowley PNM regime. Minister Rohan Sinanan, boasting 7 years now about doing work to prevent flooding and proper road maintenance. But just like everything else, empty promises and blame games. Blame Kamala, blame Kamala, blame Kamala. While people are suffering throughout this country after spending billions of dollars. Are you better off now? The answer is no. The southern region continues to flood under this government. Where is the allocation to clear the water courses, especially in the UNC areas? Fields of crops are flooded out. Livestock are lost. People's homes are flooded out because they fail to maintain these major water courses. Do not blame the rain and the weather pattern. Do your job or step down. Our women who have lost their jobs, especially our single mothers, during this pandemic have turned to agriculture to feed their families and are now faced with more hardships due to the flooding situation. Farmers who lost their crops due to flooding are yet to receive compensation. What measures are being put in place to help these farmers? When are you going to compensate these farmers, Prime Minister Rowley? In addition to flooding situation, Imbert raised fuel prices again and again and said the people ain't riot yet, with the result of a huge increase in food prices, feed for animals, chemicals, and agricultural supplies. We are seeing residents in every community coming out now and protesting because they are fed up and are suffering for basic necessities. The prices of local vegetables have increased. Imagine baigan, $15 a pound. Bodi, a small bundle, $10 for a bundle. Tomatoes, $15 a pound. Cabbage, $10 a pound. Well, it's not no longer sweet pepper because it's $15 a pound now. That is sweet at all. The price of a 5-pound chicken is now between $70 and $75. How are you to feed your family with these ridiculous prices while Rowley, Imbert, and the entire PNM government don't have to worry about high food prices? The women of our beloved country are the ones who have to make the tough decisions every day. Mothers would do without something to eat to ensure their children have a proper meal. This is the sad state of affairs this country has reached under this government. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Kamala Prasad-Bisasa, she distributed food cards, baby grants, laptops, school grants. She even had VAT removed from basic food items to help families in need. Over the past 7 years, agriculture has received 2% of or less of the budget allocation. Between 2010 and 2015, the Honorable Kamala Prasad-Bisasa placed great emphasis on agriculture. She continues to have that focus as she recognizes the importance of agricultural development in a nation's ability to feed itself. But the longest rope has an end, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago are saying enough is enough. If you cannot rule this country, time to call elections or step down. My brothers and sisters, there is hope for a brighter future under the leadership of Kamala Prasad Pisesa once more. Stand tall, stand proud. The sun will rise again. Good night.
Dynamite in a small bundle. Let us hear it for our Shanti Brigade. And yes, there will be light at the end of the tunnel. The sun will rise again with Kamala Prasad Pisesa as our leader. Our next speaker is the Assistant Secretary on the National Women's Arm, fighting for women's rights and gender equality. She has been an activist over 15 years in her area. She is a member of the Cantaro Community Council for the past 17 years, was the temporary senator on the opposition bench in 2017. Let us welcome Councillor for the Electoral District of El Socorro, Aranguez North, the newest seat in the Sawa Lavantil Regional Corporation, Councillor Raquel Ghani.
Thank you, Councillor Nadia Khan Mohammed. Honorable political leader, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Pisesa, the best Prime Minister that Trinidad and Tobago has ever had. Members of NATEX, members of Parliament, senators, councillors and aldermen, to you the viewing and listening audience, a pleasant good evening, my UNC family. I stand here this evening as a proud member of this great party, the United National Congress, and as the Assistant Secretary of the Women's Arm, and also a UNC councillor representing in the region of Sawa Lavantil. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening I want to ask you, do you feel safe in this country under the leadership of this Rowley-led PNM government? No. Our children's future under this regime is unsafe. Let us talk a little about the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services. Minister Donna Cox has failed the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Earlier this year, under her charge in the ministry, 12,010 persons were removed from the senior citizens pension grant. At a finance committee meeting on May 13th, a question was posed to her as to why these persons were removed by our Honorable Member of Parliament for Chaguanas East, Ms. Vandana Mohet. And to this, Minister Donna Cox responded that most of the persons were dead. But when researched by our brilliant MP, who is now the Education Officer on NATEX, on page 88 of the Auditor's General Report of 2021 stated differently. The report is public for persons to view. It will be too long for me to read it out at this time. So citizens, when a minister cannot answer to a question directly, how can we trust them with our future? The food card program. On the 7th of January, in a press release made from the ministry, that the food support program has not been suspended, but will be exposed to review and investigation of the current beneficiaries that I need to continue to receive this support. Before the release, persons were already being removed from the system. and were calling us, the councillors' offices, complaining because their food cards have been cut. Since 2016, we have been having complaints of persons having this problem with the food cards. Now, a food card provides for a family of 1 to 4, $510. A family of 4 to 5, $650. A family of 6 plus, $800. Previously, my councillor colleague, Shanti Budram, would have mentioned the price of chicken. Now, with a family of 1 to 4, $510 is not enough. I am a family of 1 to 4 presently, and $510 cannot provide for my family for a month. So how can a ministry which is designed to help and upkeep the welfare of its citizens be uncaring? The question is being asked because 2 of its 2016-2030 plan in pursuit of its vision states, putting people first, nurturing our greatest assets. Meaning our greatest assets are we the people. Trinidad and Tobago, are you being put first? Are you able to sustain yourself and your family? No, I will say no. Daily, we are faced with high food prices, high gas prices, and you know what? Before the year end, you will be faced with paying that dreaded property tax. And the second one is improving productivity through quality infrastructure. Well, the state of the roads in this country will speak for itself, because I'm sure all of us here and all of you out there viewing drive on these roads daily. Just last week, I saw a coconut tree planted on the main road in a wrong ways. Well, I never see a road pit so fast because that hole has been there over a year. And also now, the ministry's motto is helping, empowering, and transforming lives. I see no plan to help, I see no plan to empower, or I see no plan of transformations of lives. Remember this food hamper program that was promised since last year? Miss Minister or Mr. Prime Minister, were these just some words to comfort the population? Madam Minister, while you are outfitted with a salary to maintain your lavish lifestyle, there are persons out there still struggling to catch themselves after all the restrictions have been lifted from the COVID-19 pandemic. We want to know, I want to know what happened to the food hamper program promised. Now let's talk about that empowering and transforming lives. I cannot see that happening with no job employment opportunities created, with over 50,000 plus in job losses, no form of revenue incoming. How is it that that motto states one thing, but the population is facing something different? Brothers and sisters, between 2010 to 2015, under the Kamala Prasad Bisesa-led UNC government, we saw great sustainability in living. We saw VAT removed from 7,000 food items. We saw 55,000 plus jobs created. So 55,000 jobs plus created was between 2010 and 2015, and in less than 5 years, 50,000 persons lost their jobs under the PNM government. We saw 100 plus schools built. We saw police stations. We saw the children's hospital. Now it's not the children's hospital anymore. We saw the training hospital in San Fernando. We saw infrastructure throughout this country where there was no geographical discrimination. We had the baby grant program, which was removed. We had a program to assist parents with special needs children. Oh my gosh, these parents see about these children like a job. We had a program named Real Hope to assist the elderly persons with the upkeep of their surroundings. Now the aged have to suffer. Sometimes we ourselves as councillors go in and assist. And so much more could be said that was done under the UNC-led government by the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar. But brothers and sisters, let us not be blinded by the lies of the PNM Rowley-led government. And let us stand united as one people with the United National Congress, with a brilliant leader as the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar for sustainability on our daily lives. Let us continue to fight for better governance. Let us work together for a better nation. I stand here UNC and proud. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Raquel Ghani. As councillor, our phones are bombarded with so much phone calls for book grant, food cards. Now I even see persons calling for burial grant. Someone was sharing with me that her dad passed away and she did all the arrangements that she had to do in San Fernando. And she said early in the morning she will go by NIS in Siparia to just get the grant, finalize the grant. When she went to Siparia now, they're telling her that Siparia no longer does the burial grant, so she has to go back to San Fernando. And this is the kind of treatment that we get from this PNM, this wicked PNM government. They have continuously failed to provide for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Our next speaker is Alderman Suzanne Holder. Ms. Holder is an alderman in the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation, a strong supporter of the UNC. She will go a million miles to assure that the UNC regain government. Let's hear it for our vibrant and powerful UNC alderman.
A pleasant good night to my political leader, a woman who is second to none. Members of NATEX, my UNC family, members of the listening public, those who are sitting in the comfort of their home. It's my pleasure to speak to you tonight on local government. Today, I could stand here and say boldly that the councillors in the Sandy Grande region, and I think I can speak on behalf of all councillors, are really going through a rough time due to the lack of resources in the Sandy Grande region. Sometimes, as an alderman, I really feel the pain, especially when the burgesses of our region comes down on our councillors. They make demand and the councillors have nothing to offer. Since we entered the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation, the UNC Council, a UNC-run council, we are faced with no funding, no funding. All funding start to deplete. All funding start to deplete. Under maintenance of vehicle, no funding. The cesspit truck down. The water truck down. Every second of the day, somebody would be calling your phone. They need a toilet. They pay 6 months, they pay 8 months, they pay 10 months, and they cannot get their toilet clean because the vehicle is not working. Well, the water truck service is one of the worst in the Sandy Grande region. As you all know, the Sandy Grande region is one of the largest regions we have. And we have 1 or 2 water trucks in the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation, and 90% of the time, these trucks are not serviceable. So, The councillors will be getting licks one after the other. Every second of the day they are faced with blows from the public due to this PNM government. I am asking the Minister of Local Government to find funding, find it wheresoever he can, and release it to our corporation so that we can act in an effective manner. No PPE, no PPE. The workers in Sandy Grande region working now with slippers on the job site. They cannot get a boots, no funding. They have on their home clothes, 3/4 pants, short pants, armless jersey, and nobody could tell them anything because we have no funding. We have no funding. We cannot supply the needs of the employees of the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation. No tools. No tools. So when you pass by the road or you go in the trace or the track, you will see them standing. And when you ask them, so they're not working today, they will say, well, we don't have any tools. And you cannot argue with them because they have no tools. Failure on behalf of local government. No money for goods and service. Our region is affected by natural disaster time after time because the Ministry of Works is not cleaning our water courses. All the water courses are clogged, and every time 2 drops of rainfall in Sandy Grande, we are being flooded out. And this shameless government have nothing to offer. When the people get flooded out and they lose all that they work how many years for, and they go to social service to get some assistance, it takes them years. Some of them never get compensated. I could remember in 2018, Sandy Grande was one of the regions that was flooded out more than any other region. And today, 2022, some of these people were never compensated. This government never have money. And you would not believe that under disaster for the fiscal year, we receive $50,000. How shameless this government is. How shameless. $50,000. My heart goes out for my councillors. You know, we expected a bad weather condition sometime last Monday. And I saw the effort my councillors put out to assure that the Burgesses were protected because they didn't want them to be affected and not get no compensation from this government because they tend to turn a blind eye and a deaf ears when these things happen. They operate in such a way like it already happened, so let it go by. It's only who feels it knows it. And I can tell you tonight that the councillors feel it on many occasions. I see Councillor Philip, Councillor C. Charan, Councillor Maraj, Councillor Nasser in tears in the corporation. They cry tears for the Burgesses because they cannot afford to do it, and this worthless, wicked government not doing it. Mr. Prime Minister, Minister of Works and Transport, Minister of Local Government, I am asking you to step up or step out. We don't have time to waste. We know that the UNC is a caring, loving government. We have a leader who loves people. She cares about people. I could remember in Ms. Kamala Prasad Bisesa tenure as Prime Minister, the type of delivery that was handed out to one and all. There was no separation. This government is the government that rule and divide. They separate, and people continue to vote for this careless government, all because of race. And I put no water in my mouth to say it. We cannot continue to vote based on race. We vote for what is good and proper. And the only government that will deliver what is good and proper in fairness to all is the United National Congress. Tonight, I would not say no more. I would not say no more. Because, but I am urging each and every one of you here, don't be afraid to talk to them PNM, you know. They're just shame right now. They're just shame. And they're staying very quiet because they're shame. So now is the time to approach them. Yes. They need help, you know. They need help, and it's we to help them. We, the members of the United National Congress. And I say that with no hard feeling. I am willing to help all you. And all my UNC members here are willing to help all you. Come brave. Forget Rowley. He ain't doing nothing for all you. It's the most promising government I ever meet. They promise for 5 years, they never deliver. And all you go and put them back again. And now all your shame, all your hiding. All right. Let's not do like Adam and stay in the garden and hide. Come out. Come out and vote for the United National Congress.
You see representation, now that is representation. UNC ladies, let us give them a round of applause. Now I have 4 words, just 4 words to express the present state of local government issues. And that is many allocations, few releases. Tell me something, ladies and gentlemen, what sense it makes when a minister stands up in parliament and boastfully says that he has allocated millions to regional corporation, but in some cases he would only release thousands or even hundreds. How can things be done at the regional corporation? How can potholes be fixed? How can, like my colleague just said, how can equipment be serviced or maintained? As a local government representative myself for the electoral district of Claxon Bay, Pointe-a-Pierre, I can speak about all the issues and challenges we experience at the Kufa-Tabaki-Talparo Regional Corporation. But I will leave that for another day because I'm sure we could write a book after this. Our next speaker is a woman of great caliber, I should say. She is the Deputy Mayor of Chaguanas and the Public Relations Officer of the United National Women's Arm. She's an LLB graduate from the University of London, currently pursuing her LPC with experience in forensic psychology and counseling. The Deputy Mayor is a woman's advocate and has done women empowerment training in rural development in India. She is also the chairman of the Public Health Committee at the Chaguanas Borough Corporation. Let us welcome, with a lusty round of applause, Alderman Marissa Vidya Ramlogan.
Thank you for that wonderful greeting, Nadia. Honorable Political Leader, Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisessa, Senior Counsel, and I stress on the Senior Counsel, especially for the Law Association, if they're looking on this evening, good evening. UNC family, my sisters of the United National Congress. It is a hard act to follow this evening, listening to my sisters who have come from every part of Trinidad and Tobago to be here tonight and to speak tonight. I want to applaud you all. Every year, they tell us that they will implement the procurement legislation. Yet, they find some way to delay it. In 2019 to 2020, they delayed the regulations. Now that the regulations have been passed, they now want to review these regulations. Now, you may ask, why am I speaking about this? And, it's the National Women's Arm. And I will tell you why. Because I want you to ask yourself why. The procurement regulator told us that over $5 billion of the $26 billion spent annually by public bodies could be saved with the implementation of this legislation. Are they delaying this legislation because they are benefiting from the millions lost out to corruption and waste? It is the recklessness, lazy approach and attempt by this government to derail proper procurement, which has led to only 130 out of 415 public bodies appointing a procurement officer after 7 years. And they will go to Parliament to boast that they want procurement. However, they consistently try to block its implementation. This government fully knows that if public bodies are not prepared, the legislation cannot be implemented. So they have done absolutely nothing to ensure public bodies are compliant. This is the hypocrisy of this PNM-led government. Armour and Imbert, he will come and mamagai you. They always want to talk about corruption. But TNT, remember this. This is the government of recusals. Nothing works under this government. Now, the reason why I stressed on $5 billion in savings, right? This is $5 billion in savings from corruption. This is $5 billion that could be used today to repair our roads. We are seeing protests from Claxton Bay to Moruga, from citizens begging for roads to be fixed. And Rohan Sinanan says with no shame at all in yesterday's newspaper, he does not have the money. Well, let me show him where he can get the money from. It's simple. Implement the procurement legislation. You will get the money. As I mentioned, the Minister of Works, and I like to say currently, no works, Rohan Sinanan, let me say it to you tonight. If you feel that when you change a permit to a license and you saved $1.50 on each, that is going to be your biggest achievement as a minister, then clearly you have no clue what you are doing. What you continue to do daily is cover your incompetence by shifting the blame on the municipal corporations, yes, our municipal corporations. You are so out of sync with your own ministry when you made the claims that corporations are not willing to partner with you. While you were not even aware that my corporation, Shogunas Borough Corporation, were willing and even offered transportation for road materials. And it was your ministry that claimed that the plant was down. So who to blame, Rohan? How you expect corporations to partner and you can't get your act together? It's always a blame game with this PNM-led government. I would like to state that roadways throughout the country, and if you are a fan of Stranger Things, sometimes you feel as if you're in the upside down. It is in deplorable conditions. It is sometimes impassable. The major reason being funding, and my sister corporations will agree with me. Funding is not being released to our corporations. For example, at the Shogunas Borough Corporation, our materials and supplies both, we were not given our releases, and this is 10 months has passed in the financial year, and we have only received thus far $208,321 out of a meager $500,000. $500,000 for a growing borough of Shogunas. It is absolutely ridiculous. The government has already stifled our allocation with a small figure placed on roadworks, coupled with late releases, creating a national road disaster, and we can all agree on that. Every day we look at social media, we will see people burning tires, they're protesting for roads. This is what they have created. This PNM-led government has created this. And they are basically sending a message to the country that roadworks are insignificant and not a priority in this country. And one wonders what is really a priority in this country. The utter failure and incompetence of this PNM-led government is simply amazing at times. And instead of formulating plans to improve on goods and services for the citizens of this country, they choose to place blame on everything and everyone under the sun, including Kamla, for their monumental failure as a government. I want to speak a little on the crime situation because, as you know, the UNC National Women's Arm, we have held many protest action calling for the crime situation to be addressed by this government. And it is very troubling and very prevalent at this time because we have seen a new trend in the form of home invasions where citizens are being beaten, brutalized, robbed, raped, and killed in the sanctity of their own homes where one should be protected and safe. The murder and rape of women and children continues unabated. While your Minister of National Security, or at times I like to say insecurity, Fitzgerald Hines, instead of implementing plans to combat the crime situation, finds it priority, and I like to say he likes to play Inspector Clouseau, and he's investigating if UNC people paying people to burn tires on protests, as if we have to pay people to burn tires when we pass on every road in Trinidad and Tobago, and as we might end up in another country when we go through the pothole. So that is what he is doing. And then it makes us wonder, is it a deliberate ploy to play a blind eye to the rampant crime situation? So that while citizens are distracted and busy scampering and hiding from criminal elements, you have recusals taking place. And clearly we have a delusional Attorney General who is not sure if he's a junior or a senior in charge of legislation in this country. And that is troubling. I want to say to Fitzgerald Hines tonight, yes, the sleeping minister. We're not sure if he's awake even now as we speak. Hines, it is time for you and your band of misfits that you call a government to go, because this is not a government. If we continue with this, I do not know what will happen to Trinidad and Tobago. And I have to say, under the astute leadership of a woman that has broken the glass ceiling for women in leadership and paved the way for women such as the ones that you have seen spoken tonight here, and myself, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar governed this country with a focus on implementing plans and programs which included education as a priority, which was her vision in alleviating poverty, unemployment, and crime, and giving an opportunity to achieve regardless of your status. You see, that is the difference with the United National Congress. We do not come here Mondays and Thursdays and at meetings just to criticize this PNM government. We are about plans. We are about implementing plans. We are about making a safer and a more productive country. And that is the difference. And that is what you will see tonight on this platform. You are seeing the women of the United National Congress. You are seeing the women that have trained under a leader like no other, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And it is so amazing because the women of the UNC are very, very strong. There were equal opportunities for all. That is under Kamla Persad-Bissessar. She created a level playing field. She made it possible that today you and I can hold our heads high and look towards a brighter future. That foundation was laid by none other than Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And that can be seen in our parliament today. Our young women, MP Khadija Amin, MP Vandana Mohit, MP Anita Haynes. This is the leadership of Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And you can also see it in our municipal corporations. And you've seen some of our councillors and aldermen to this tonight. And that is to tell you This is the futuristic leadership. This is what the United National Congress is about. The UNC National Women's Arm, we stand strong with Kamla Persad-Bissessar. And tonight I have a special message for the Law Association because I am putting you on notice tonight. When you come after Kamla Persad-Bissessar, the women of the National Women's Arm, the women of the United National Congress, we will not stand for that. When you come for Kamla Persad-Bissessar, you come for us. And I am letting you know tonight, Kamla Persad-Bissessar will not be bullied into submission for speaking the truth and exposing the lies that you were responsible for doing. So I say tonight, we stand with Kamla Persad-Bissessar. So you bring it, because we are here to support her. So I would say to Amma and friends tonight, come down from there, not Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. I wish you a good night. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Brothers and sisters, I want to take this opportunity to thank Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar for giving young people and women an opportunity. She empowers us. As the Deputy Chairman, Mrs. Ramlogan, would have mentioned, that she referred to Ministry of Works as no work. In my electoral district in Siparia, East San Francisco South, there are countless amount of water courses that need drenching. Our roads are so bad. Just the name Kura Main Road in Siparia, it is so terrible. When I called Ministry of Works, they told me that they would start the mobile patching very soon. I said, mobile patching? That road cannot patch. That road have to repave. And you see the thing about it, brothers and sisters, this government has shown us time and time in every aspect that they do not care about us, the citizen. They do not care. And that is why we need to show Trinidad and Tobago that we deserve better. We need to stand tall with Kamla Persad-Bissessar and make her our next Prime Minister once more. Our next speaker is Nabiyah Green. She was the former candidate for Toko Sandy Grande in the 2020 general election. Nabiyah is a dynamic young woman who is passionate about the well-being of women and children. She is currently the area manager of an esteemed trade union. She continues to be of service to her fellow men. She is UNC and proud.
A special good evening to our political leader, members of NATEX, and my UNC family. I don't think that much more needs to be said after these dynamic women would have spoken. I think all I should say now is that we need to bring Kamla Sushila Persad-Bissessar back into government immediately. Tonight, I just want to focus a little bit on the problems that women have been experiencing. And before I go on, I think that we need to give our Women's Arm a resounding round of applause for the excellent work and dedicated task that they have been putting forward. This lovely and resourceful country, Trinidad and Tobago, has 1,414,000 people. Of this, 51.6 are women. Yes, 729,329 citizens are women. According to the 2012 National Gender Policy, despite high levels of education and employment, women are still the primary caregivers in the society, with the majority of the responsibility for raising children, performing housework, taking care of the sick and the aging and elderly, even the disabled, and managing many of community-based organizations. Simply put, our women are resourceful, multi-talented, multitasking, industrious, contributing and indispensable individuals in the society. And we represent the majority of the population. It means, therefore, that if women are mobilized among common themes, then policies and principles to improve our socio-economic situation, thus giving room for so much good potential to be fulfilled, will become a reality. Will you believe that this precious human resource is still being undervalued, discriminated, abused, and marginalized in Trinidad and Tobago? In all developed countries, women are treasured, protected, rewarded, and recognized. But in this country, somebody wants us divided. In this country, someone wants us silent. In this country, someone wants us to be subservient, substandard, and substituted. They have used politics to keep our women divided, instead of using it to benefit all our women. This heartless incumbent regime has sought to vilify the most outstanding, exemplary, and kind-hearted female leader Trinidad and Tobago has ever seen. Their propaganda machine is well-oiled, but they can't keep a good woman down. I repeat, they cannot keep a good woman down. In a short 5 years, 32 secondary schools, incredible, right? Single mothers' needs being attended to. An exemplar for all women in this country in morality, integrity, education. Did you all see Mistress Kamala Prasad Sushila Bisessa's biography? The level of education this woman would have attained. I'm not talking about somebody who will come up and say, I did geography and don't ask me them kind of questions. I'm talking about a woman who is dedicated, passionate, educated, full of wisdom. And this is exactly what Trinidad and Tobago needs. And I know my UNC family will agree that we are in desperate times, and this is our time, and we need Mistress Kamala Prasad Bisessa back in governance, because her professionalism is none to no other. Her tenacity and a voice for every single woman of this nation. We salute you again, Kamala Prasad Bisessa. You have done an excellent job and a great contribution to our country, Trinidad and Tobago. But there's a new wave racing towards the shore of corruption to wash away the perpetrators of this agony. A chorus of voices are singing a song of hope, and slowly but surely the nation is joining the refrain. I am very much certain that a lot of left-footers and right-footers, they are ready to come home. I am certain that these PNM people would have recognized the errors that would have occurred in the general election 2020, and they're just a little shame, but give them some time, they will come home. Our women have felt the pain. Their sons are being lost to crime. Their daughters are the victims of rampant domestic violence and violence against women. Not one voice in government is being raised against this. This incompetent bunch of misfits are either clueless or careless and continue to feed off the fat of the land while we are being tortured and tormented by the evil they have unleashed. It's time for women to stand up for women. It's time for men to also stand up for women. It's time for everyone to take a stand. When women can be battered and bruised, enslaved and abused, with no fear of justice, we know that this country has gone down a social and political precipice. No country can thrive when the blood of women are on the hands of its leaders. In 2017, 52 women were killed, with 43 of those murders being linked to domestic violence. And this is something that is very close to my heart. Being a survivor of domestic violence, I could tell you that much more needs to be done in this country. Of the 516 murders in 2018, 430 of them remain unsolved. 47 of these were women. According to the TTPS statistics, there were 352 rapes, incest and sexual offenses reported in 2019. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service said of the 745 people reported missing for 2020, a staggering 416 of those are women and girls, which is more than half of the missing persons figure. The police said there was no confirmation as to how many of that number remains missing. Back then, Ayana Webster Roy said, over the years, the Gender Affairs Division had worked with the NGOs and the UN agencies to change the norms and stereotypes in an effort to modify behavior surrounding domestic violence.
That's a lie. Webster Wright said for the next 3 years, the government plans to scale up all the activities in order to deliver on the goal of gender equality and the empowering of women and girls. That's also a lie. She said these included efforts to create the structures to support victims and perpetrators via policy and services. This was coupled with programs to build awareness on domestic violence and discuss the core issues driving such violence within families, such as unequal power in all its forms. Have you heard of these programs? I'm asking, have you heard of these programs? Have you heard of these structures and services? Well, whatever, Ayana. Since that, she has blamed COVID for the continuing spate of the violence against women. Back then, the Prime Minister blamed PH drivers who were not qualified to pick up people in their cars. Generalizing, trivializing, and misleading. And the UNC family, we are not surprised. Andrea Barrett, Shanti Riley, and numerous other women whose cases were never solved because of judicial indifference and lack of governmental accountability, we will never forget. Women in Trinidad and Tobago can and should become the biggest pressure group in this country because we cannot depend on those who promised and premised, those who vied for office and then lied in office. I challenge my colleagues and friends of a similar political and philosophical persuasion, those who see the need for the protection of women, the enforcement of our rights and our empowerment so that this society can be elevated and emulated. We have to reconsider the curriculum, how and what we teach. Reconsider who are our leaders. Reconsider everything we are doing and not doing, and what we are going to do with the ineffective, irresponsible group of jokes when and how it's going to be removed. Ladies and gentlemen, domestic violence and abuse of women in every form are cardinal sins. The bigger sin is men and women who stay silent and do nothing about it. Any modern society which does not eliminate the unnecessary ills faced by its women and does not embrace the strengths of its women are operating in a failed and frail society. It's clear that Keith Christopher Rowley is threatened by our Kamala Prasad Bisesa. Let's put our heads and our hearts and our voices together. Let's make this work. According to the Black Stallion, we can make it if we try. UNC, my family, I call on you tonight that we work together, that we stand together with the greatest leader that has ever embraced our country, Mistress Kamala Prasad Bisesa. I thank you very much.
Miller. And I want to join with my colleague in saying, come back home. Our political leader has taught us that. Welcome them back home. Our next speaker is a woman who wore many hats, from being a coach, a professional coach, author, and a passionate advocate for responsible parenting. She's from humble beginnings. From humble beginnings, she entered the corporate world and climbed the ladder with hard work, diligence, and commitment to her duties. She's a former candidate in the 2020 general elections for the Diego Martin West seat against the Prime Minister. She's a former temporary senator for the constituency coordinator for Diego Martin West. Let us welcome Marsha Walker.
Good evening to our political leader, fellow speakers, to the media, and to those listening online. Welcome back to our PRO as well. I want to start by honoring, because we all know that I'm the real MP for Diego Martin West. And we know that Keith Rowley is never around. Yeah. So, yesterday was July 27th. It was the anniversary of the failed coup. Let me tell you who I am. I am the daughter of Peter Riley, Sergeant Peter Riley. So you all will understand why I found it very disrespectful that he didn't even put a Facebook post saying, hey, thanks. Yesterday was the coup, today is the coup. Was the coup? There was nothing. He let the day pass as if it meant nothing. When I was 7 years old, so some people would say, well, you're too young to understand. Let me tell you what happened during the coup. It was the dark of the night, and soldiers lined my street. One at the corner, one at the other corner, one by the gate, one by the door. I had a 10-month-old brother, and they grabbed us, and they took us to safety. I lay on the floor, and my mom will say not even the dog that was lying down next to me in the truck barked. My dad was on a hit list, so they needed to put us into somewhere, they needed to carry us somewhere safe. I am not the only person who has trauma from that day 32 years ago. We lost people, we lost parliamentarians, we lost heroes. People died, people fought, and people stood for our democracy 32 years ago. And the Prime Minister could not be bothered to make a statement. When we forget or trivialize or ignore moments in history like that, we are at risk of repeating it. Because that is how we learn. We learn through history. It is absolutely disrespectful. I'm going to watch the camera now because Keith Rowley, I know he's listening. I know he's listening when I'm talking. It is disrespectful that you said nothing about the coup yesterday. Stories like that help our young people. Do you know why? My nephews are soldiers because of those stories. Because those stories inspire us. They help us remember who we are as a people. The Defense Force, our armed forces on that day, protected our democracy. And they did it with minimal loss. I want you guys to think for a moment where we would be today as a country had that coup been successful. Citizens, that day we fought for our democracy, a democracy that once again is under threat. But we could have easily woken up to a military state. We must never forget that day. I want to urge our citizens at this point, though. There are options. We fight with our pen. We fight with our voices. We fight by marching. If you're like Anand Ram Logan, he is fighting the court, the Privy Council all the way. Let me congratulate Anand Ram Logan, Dinesh Rambali, and our fantastic lawyers. I know they like to say them UNC lawyers from South. But the P&M lawyers, while they represent big shots and send home 5,000 workers, and that's what they do, Anand Ram Logan was in court all the way in England, making sure that the young black boy don't get thrown away and locked away in prison, because that's the answer. That's P&M answer, lock you away and forget you. But Anand Ram Logan went all the way to England because it was important enough. Young black men are important enough to UNC. So I want to urge our citizens, I know right now it feels like it felt in the 80s. Because that's P&M. After 10 years, when they get them 2 terms in office, they just mash it up to that point. That's how it is. But we must learn from 1990. Here's what we must learn. Economics-wise, you'll ever notice that we had an oil boom in the 70s. And by the 80s, things were so bad that people took that kind of action to overthrow the government. How it is you have that kind of oil money in the 70s and less than a decade later, people lining up like if we never see money in my life. P&M has never been able to manage the wealth of our country. So that's the first lesson we must learn from the coup. That's That's the first lesson. We have to stand up. We have to fight. Our country is at stake. Do not wait until it gets to a boiling point where we feel like we have no other choice but to overthrow a government. Now is the time. One of my sisters spoke about the Women's Arms and the constant marches and the protests that happen from east, west, north, south. Join with us. Get involved. We have a legal team that challenges this government. In fact, Faris always like to say, UNC wasting money because we're always in court. We will use whatever tools we have to get accountability and to get action from this government. I want to go to one more thing before I close. We normally have a timer. Where's my timer? Well, you know I could talk all night if you give me a chance. Huh? You'll tell me? What? I don't know what you're telling me, Kirk. Right. I want to go to one more thing. We had some athletes, and it's not the first time, but this time, I guess, it hit home a little bit closer. Because a few months ago, about a month ago, some of my hockey colleagues called and said, Marsha, we needed to speak up. I said, no, you all need to speak up. Every time I speak, you all have to understand that now, because I wear yellow, people say, you're making it political, you're making it political, you're making it political. This time I always used to be a big mouth, I always used to be protesting. Nobody remember that I used to protest from a child's school when they closed it down, all kind of thing. Nobody remember that. All of a sudden, I'm wearing yellow, I'm making it political, and I'm anti-PNM. So I say, you all need to step up. I said, no. So gosh, we don't want to get involved, I said, well, then all deal with it. So if you have no problem with the national team not having somewhere to train, then deal with it. So go use raise all the concerns. I say, well, my days for sports done, you know. All I need to deal with it. That's not the area that I shadow. I go pass it on to Anel and Naked. But me talking for y'all. And that is what I want to urge citizens to do. You see, just pick up the phone and ask somebody else to deal with it. We had 4 young ladies stay back on an under-16 tour. Y'all hear any ages? Many from what would be considered, you know, PNM like to call them ghetto, at risk, all kind of names they find for young ladies and for communities. But many of them from at-risk communities. We talk about steering young people away from crime. But Shamfa, well, you would have seen the video, so I try not to be too angry tonight, right? You know, in a suit and thing, showing people, you know, I could be cool and calm. I'm trying. But Shamfa, when you take on a ministry, in fact, all ministries are important, but I guess this one impacts youth, and you all know I'm passionate about the youth. We need to adopt an attitude of can-do. Many moons ago, I used to be a general manager. And the one thing that I knew, that I understood was, we could get it done. Just find a way. Find a way to get it done. So, okay, you're saying the governing bodies this and the governing bodies that. First of all, you had 2 years where sports was shut down. Nobody was touring. No national teams were going anywhere. That would have been a perfect opportunity for you, Shamfa, to go to the national governing bodies and say, hey, I notice your account's not in order. Is there anything we can do to help you to bring it up to speed? You had 2 years to sit and help these governing bodies get their books in order. Of course, it would have been a little bit hypocritical, and that may be why a government like yours, who have audited accounts outstanding for God knows how long, no transparency, no accountability, so I could understand why you would not have been able to go to the governing bodies and say, hey, I can't give you no more money, you know. I send that speech, by the way, to every senator and every MP, because budget coming. So anybody who talk about transparency and they want to ask for more money and they ain't giving all it, I see MP, I will send you the quotation, because she tell the governing body, until you bring audited accounts, I can't release no more money. So let best hold on to that quote, because they go come for more money and you know they didn't produce no audited accounts, right? But 4 young ladies did not go on a tour. They're playing right now. I was watching the game coming up, and the 8 that went, playing their heart out. They're playing short. They didn't have the subs. Anybody who understands sports, I know you will, I know my good friend will speak after me. You will understand the pressure. They were in the airport, reaching late, just in time, tired, exhausted to play matches. Where was the attitude of, we can get it done? And tonight I want to salute MP Mohit, because a lot of the young ladies came from her constituency, and at the very last minute, we said, let's reach out to the MPs. I see, well, all right, one is Maloney. I said, well, I can't help all of there. One is Point Fortin. I can't help all of there. I said, anybody from the UNC constituencies? Because I know I could get help if all they come from the UNC constituencies. Thank God, we find some ladies. And true to form, MP Mohit did not say, well, all they now coming to me, what I go do? I can't do nothing. She said, give me the information. What can I do? How can I do? She went, she looked for sponsors, she did what she can do. And then to the very end, even when she found some money, she said, let's look for tickets. We can't find tickets. She's looking for tickets. She herself looking for tickets. She was messaging parents, let me know when they reach safe. That is what we needed from you, Shamfa. That is the attitude we needed from you. You don't stand up there and say, well, they don't have all their house together. You don't have your house together. Apart from being a hypocrite. But when your prime minister will come and say, no, we need you all to work with us, work with us, work with us. Where were you to work with our team? Where were you to say, let me help, let me get involved? That is the difference. That is the difference. That's the difference between UNC and PNM. Tonight, I want to close by urging citizens. You see that rhetoric, that PNM propaganda? I hear Nabiyah talk about the propaganda machine. You see that underground messaging that like to talk about UNC, PNM, same thing? We are never the same thing. Call, pick up the phone, get the information. We will never be the same thing. I just showed you all a difference in attitude between one MP and the other MP. Get involved. Raise your voices. You have the power. I am seeing Kirk is telling me something. I don't know if he's telling me it's time to get off. I don't know. Check my phone. I check my phone. All right, let me check my phone before I come off, and then I realize he's trying to tell me. So, my time is up. Well, that's what he was trying to tell me. I tell all about the clock. We can go on forever. I hope the following speakers, because I know we have real firepower coming. I know. Well, they better have some way of telling them where to go, eh? Right. Before I go, I want to urge citizens to use your voices. Just pick up the phone and say, hey, raise an issue for me, raise an issue for me. I want to urge those young ladies, those young athletes to realize that politics matter. So when we speak, we're not up here because we want to make something political. In fact, we all got involved because we understood this is where change happens. Somebody like Kamla Persad-Bissessar, do you understand? We spoke about her qualifications. Do you understand the kind of wealth that she would have generated had she and her husband stayed in the private sector? She has literally dedicated her life. She has sacrificed her life, her character, because anybody who tried to be a woman in politics will know. She is like a shield for us. She is like a shield for us. She has been a shield for us for all her life. She takes the jam so that we can grow. And I want to say thank you for her for that. Because she could have done something else, but she has dedicated her life to bring change for young people. I also want to thank, because we know she's the real Prime Minister, she made a statement on the coup yesterday. She didn't let the day pass, because she's the real Prime Minister. If we remember, and I know my time up, but if we remember, she was the one who ordered the Commission of Inquiry years later because it was important enough. And so on behalf of all the soldiers, I thank you. On behalf of all these daughters of the soldiers. Because I didn't see my dad after they dropped me off, by the way. We didn't know. We just seen thing on TV, and we don't know. They didn't have a cell phone back then. You have no idea if he's alive or not. So I want to thank the real Prime Minister of this country, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, for taking the time yesterday to honor those men and women and to acknowledge the day. I think I've spoken enough. Good night, and I look forward to reinstating Kamla Persad-Bissessar as the next Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to remind you all, early elections is a thing. We could fight for it.
Thank you, Marsha Walker. Famous name on social media. We could do better than that for Marsha. You know, in UNC, every creed and race finds an equal place. Monday, August 1st. All you know what is that? Okay, then. So our feature address for our Emancipation Day celebration comes from no other but Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Our Emancipation Day celebration is Monday, August 1st. Southern Marine Span Palace, Southern Main Road, Marabella for 3:30 p.m. So save the date, save the time, save the venue. Our next speaker, brothers and sisters, is Miss Kenya Charles. She has a bachelor's in criminal justice, master's in educational psychology, member of the Maracas Valley Community Council, chairman of the UNC Women's Arm. She has a passion for the youths of the community. She is also a former national footballer. Let's hear it for Kenya Charles.
Good night to the Honorable Political Leader, Ms. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Good night to my NATEX colleagues, MPs, senators, councillors. And good night to my UNC family. It is a pleasure to be standing here once again with you all. Firstly, I would like to thank our powerful lineup of speakers tonight. When the women of the UNC speak, the nation listens. The lineup is just a pinch of powerful speakers our party has. If we were to bring all, the country will tumble. Thank you to our host. Thank you, ladies, for making this TNT Speak successful. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our leader for her leadership and vision that allows tonight's lineup to have such a strong, dynamic, powerful women on one platform. And if you all think we finished, we have one more firecracker for you all tonight. I am a true believer of fixing another woman's crown, but our leader fixes all our crowns by her actions. As many of you all know, your UNC Women's Arm have been fighting for the safety of the women and children in Trinidad and Tobago. It has been over 2 years we have been asking for the pepper spray legislation. And all we are hearing are promises from the waste of time former Attorney General. Our women and children are living in fear, and it seems that this current government does not care. How many stories we have heard recently with women going to meet persons concerning jobs and end up in harm's way? Why we have to be fearful that our lives can be taken while job hunting? Job hunting in this country is already stressful. Now we have to fear for our lives while we're searching for jobs. How long does it take for to legalize pepper spray so we women can have a fighting chance against these monsters? Safety of women and children should be a priority. Safety of all citizens should be #1 on the list, Minister Hines. We had candlelight vigils asking for the CCTV cameras and a police post to be placed in a repo, which appears to be the dumping ground for these heartless killers. 2 years we have been highlighting this and nothing has been done since. What is this government waiting on? Are you all waiting for another innocent soul to be taken? To talk again and still have no action? We want action now. We want our women and children to feel a sense of safety and when we are walking and traveling. And tonight, I want to call on the great men of Trinidad and Tobago, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, brothers, to stand with us women and fight against these criminals and these monsters out there. Another point I want to make to address tonight, where women go to the police station and make numerous reports of matters, and these matters are not taken seriously. According to data provided by the TTPS between March 2018 and 2020, domestic violence were reported at 2,710. But between March 2020 and 2022, there was an increase to 4,857 reports made. Reports are being made, but nothing is being done to protect these women. Women are coming and reporting her life is at risk, and we are not taking it seriously. We have heard about officers laughing while reports are being made, or not even taking the report seriously to even write. This could never be right, because many times after we hear about the death of these same ladies. We heard of many murders this year alone, and the family stating to the media, she made a report, but the police didn't do nothing. This is totally unacceptable and heartbreaking. This could be your sister, your mother, your daughter making these reports. Fix it and fix it now. Too many lives are being taken. Women have been on the front line in the pandemic. Whether they're nurses or retail workers, women have been on the front line during the COVID-19 pandemic. And things have only gotten more difficult, and women are finding it harder to provide for their families. Many lost their jobs or had to take a pay cut to remain employed. The food prices have increased tremendously, and providing a proper meal for our families has been difficult. The money we used to spend in the supermarket before has become pocket change, and our grocery carts are basically empty, even after spending hundreds of dollars. The price of basic necessities for cooking is ridiculous, and the thought of buying that small chicken for all that money is heartbreaking. As Shanti mentioned, $75 for a 5-pound chicken. What that feeding? I have 10 people in my household. What that doing for me? I've had many conversations with women who complain about how hard things are and how many times they have to leave groceries that they usually pick up on the shelves because of the increase in prices. Many stated when they are at the cashier, they're praying and hoping the bill don't cross a certain amount because they would have to return the items. We need a solution to these rocketing food prices, and the PNM is definitely not the answer, because they themselves are out of touch with the people on the ground. They don't know nothing. All the PNM government does is tell us things could be worse. If 10 women get murdered this year, they will say, well, at least it wasn't 11 women. It could have been worse. If thousands of women are struggling to find work, the PNM government will say, well, at least it's not millions. It could have been worse. If thousands of women across the nation are struggling to send their children to school or put food on their table, the PNM will say, well, they're not struggling to pay their light bill. It could have been worse. The women of the UNC are saying we are fed up with this lazy, no ambition, worthless PNM government that does not care for the people of this country. You know, people think women don't have anything to say about our national infrastructure. But we use the roads too, every day to drive to and from work, to carry our children to work, to school, to lessons, to sporting activities, and all other reasons. The conditions of the roads affect us too. When we have to be swerving from potholes or going down in potholes because we see it, and then men will say we can't drive, but I think we are better drivers. That becomes an extra expense when we have to fix parts. When a shock's going in, how much for that? I just cry every single time my car go down in a hole. The roads in Trinidad and Tobago are deplorable, and the minister said blatantly his ministry doesn't have money to repair it. So what do you want me to do, repair it for myself? Well, I don't know what he do with the money, he must pocket it. As Deputy Mayor spoke about it, this is unacceptable, and we must hold Sininan and the PNM government accountable for this non-performance. Or as Marissa said, Minister, no works. Water supply is another resource that affects women. Carrying water in a bucket is not an easy task. Trust me, I know. The PNM might say our ancestors did it. But why should I have to tote water and I have a water bill coming in my mailbox every 3 months? Everything they want to tax. We do not have to accept things could be worse. Why are things not getting better? We need to break out of this mentality the PNM is forcing on us. We must remember that what our political leader, Ms. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, says. When confronted with serious problems, she doesn't say, well, it could have been worse. No, she says, why is this not better? She finds a solution for everything in this country. This is what we are demanding from this PNM tonight. Stop your excuses. The people of Trinidad and Tobago is completely fed up with you saying it could have been worse. We don't have to know it could have been worse. How is that helping us? We want to know, why are things not getting better? How can we do better to keep our women safe? What we could do to keep our women safe? What we could do to help women get jobs? What we can do to maintain our roads? What we can do to have a better water supply in our homes? What can we do to improve the lives of women and men in our nation? For our nation to progress, we need to change our mindsets to make things better. And how can we make things better? You know the answer. Things can only get better under the rising sun, under the United National Congress. Things would only get better when Kamala Persad-Bissessar is Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago once again. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Kenya. So I am sure that you all would agree with me when I say tonight's TT Speaks session was indeed special. It was filled with beauty, with brains, with brilliance. So we all know our political leader loves everyone. She loves her UNC family. She loves the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So she's always telling her team, I want to spend time with my people. I want to let us do activities to make sure that our people are present and include everyone, our family, the youths. So she has a couple days that she wants you to keep in mind. Friday, August 5th, our political leader is hosting our UNC Family Day at the Fun Splash Water Park Dayway from 12 noon. So that's a date for you to please write down and remember. For details and registration, call 490-9395 or 678-1553. Our political leader loves her youths, we know. So she also has arranged a UNC 8-a-side football tournament. It is to be held at the Center of Excellence in Macoya from August 20th to the 21st. For details and registration, call 684-0898, 390-0045 or 678-1553. Remember the dates, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Our next speaker, I must say, it is an honor to bring her on. She is indeed a role model to all of us. She is a child of the UNC who has blossomed into a warrior for the people. Our political leader fondly refers to her as her Amazon warrior. Khadija Amin has proven herself to be a force to be reckoned with in the political domain. Her roles as deputy political leader of the UNC, senator, the youngest chairman of the Tunapuna Regional Corporation, street captain, youth officer, campaign, and area manager have all aided her in becoming the astute and insightful woman she is today. She advocates against various social issues such as violence against women, gender equity, children, as well as fighting for roads, water, and lights for her community. She is currently the Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. Augustine. Please welcome Deputy Chairman of UNC, Khadija Amin.
Thank you very much, my sister, Nabiyah Khan Mohammed, my local government sister, political leader of the United National Congress, my sisters of the UNC, ladies and gentlemen, I am really honored to be a part of tonight's powerful UNC Women's Platform. I want to take this opportunity to bring greetings as Trinidad and Tobago prepares to celebrate Emancipation Day on August 1st. We prepare to celebrate freedom. Freedom from slavery, freedom from oppression, freedom from bondage. Have you ever heard the saying that a sheep spends its whole life fearing wolves, but eventually gets eaten by the shepherd? This Emancipation Day, as we reflect on the freedom that we have now, let us fiercely defend that freedom, and let us be guarded and not fall into any type of oppression and bondage in any form, including the PNMs. Tonight, I am so proud of my sisters in the United National Congress. The truth is that the PNM has declared war on women. I listened to my sisters talk about the struggles in local government. You talk about us as women in this country living in fear from crime and violence. We talk about the challenges as mothers because of the economic situation in our country. Our women and our young people are facing social and economic hardship and crisis, lack of opportunities, because of the PNM's incompetence. This government has been totally neglectful, unable to prevent the surge in violence, in domestic violence against our women. And then our dear beloved Prime Minister says, I am not in your bedroom. This government has abdicated their responsibility to the women of our nation. And it is because of the incompetence starting from the very top with the Prime Minister. And they come to tell you all kind of sad story. Left foot, right foot. Left foot property tax. Right foot increased gas prices. Left foot pensioners now living too long. Right foot women are being attacked and murdered. Left foot workers on 2013 salary. Right foot everything in the grocery and everywhere around us going up. Left foot thousands and thousands unemployed. And the PNM continues to dance and sing and laugh at us. We must stand up to this war that the PNM has declared on our women. When they increase gas price, it increases expenses for everyone, including mothers. And this Rowley government is so disconnected from reality. And we see it in their decisions all the time. While our mothers have lost their jobs, women literally do not have food to feed their children. There are women making sugar water and sending their children to bed in the night. Salaries are decreasing while food prices are going up. Fuel prices, VAT added on. Instead of taking off VAT, this man added on VAT in additional grocery items. Do we know how many women lost their jobs in this COVID pandemic? The PNM has declared war on women. We are presently in the July-August holidays, and I want to endorse a call made by the Leader of Opposition, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, who always thinks about our children. And that is a call for the government to provide a one-time uniform grant for school children for September reopening. The government must have a heart and provide assistance for women to have their children get school uniform and books to return to schools. We don't again laptops. Oh God, at least get some uniforms to our children. Our women and our youth are facing social and economic crisis, and this government remains clueless. The World Bank tells us that through multiple channels, crime and violence threaten the welfare of Caribbean citizens, particularly in Trinidad and Tobago. This is not the UNC saying this. This is not Kamla Persad-Bissessar. This is the World Bank. Is the PNM going to call them unpatriotic? Is the PNM going to call the World Bank an agent of the UNC? The facts do not lie. The victims of crime and violent crime are predominantly young people and women. Such crime also negatively impact the business environment. Criminal activity acts as a form of tax on businesses. The additional cost to put up cameras, even in your homes, to have security at your business, to have escort for your workers, it is a tax of its own on the entire economy. The International Monetary Fund, the IMF, Western Hemispheric Department, stated that the victims of violent crime are predominantly the youth. And who hurts more when a young person is murdered than a mother? Our mothers, their hearts are bleeding for their children. And what is this Rowley-led government doing? My sisters before me spoke about youth and sports and the failure of this government to provide opportunities to develop our young people, to move their way out of a life of crime. We have not seen increased opportunities for at-risk youth through sports and education and skills training. When Kamla Persad-Bissessar was Prime Minister, we had that as an ongoing thing. When the People's Partnership government implemented these opportunities, there was a significant reduction in murders. And when these programs were stopped, the murders increased. The data does not lie. Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the United National Congress reduced the number of murders in our country. So while we are faced with violence, while we are living in fear, the cost of living is rising exponentially, increasing, and so is unemployment. And when you look at what our country is facing, what our families are facing, that is why I say this PNM government has declared war on women. This government has really failed when it comes to the surge in violence. In 2022, an elderly woman was the very first homicide victim in Trinidad and Tobago. Another woman was abducted, murdered, and raped. And it got worse as the year went by. A 40-year-old mother was murdered on the eve of her daughter's birthday. A woman was killed trying to fight off bandits who invaded her home. Week after week, we see violence against women taking front and center, devastating and gruesome cases. And it has become just another news headline, but not to the families who lost loved ones. It has been continuously violent, and because of that, every one of us will live in fear. That is also having an impact on the psyche of our young girls. In 2020, 46 women were killed. 21 of them were in domestic violence situations, and that represents 13% of the total homicides for the year. I'm sharing this with you because statistics do not lie. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, TTPS, also reported that 745 people reported missing from 2020. Of that, 416 were women and girls. We continue to live in fear. The Coalition for Domestic Violence in 2020 also noted that in the year when the Domestic Violence Act was strengthened and the police established the Gender-Based Violence Unit, 21 women were killed as a result of domestic violence, and others sexually assaulted and murdered. In the Latin America and the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago has one of the highest homicide rates in 2021. And the rate we are going, 2022, we are no backward. The highest murder rate in the history of our country is always under the PNM, because the PNM has failed. They have failed and they have failed. Under Kamla Persad-Bissessar, there was a Ministry of Gender and Child Affairs, because our women and our children were important to our nation. What did the PNM do? They already have no achievements. They disbanded that ministry and created a department. Where? In the office of the Prime Minister. Well, God help us. The man who says that women are like golf courses to be groomed, the man who says in relation to domestic violence that I am not in your bedroom, I cannot protect you, the government cannot protect victims of domestic violence. He is in charge of that department that is responsible for women and gender. What a total shame. Don't let me get started on children. The evidence is there. The PNM has people within its folds who have been named as abusers, as rapists, as child molesters, and they sit and say nothing. You are protecting these child sex offenders. Recently, I have participated with our women's arm. I want to commend the women's arm of the UNC. On so many occasions, you have been outspoken, standing up for the women of our country, bringing awareness to what happens in the heights of Aripo, where so many young girls' bodies have been found, whether it is with a candlelight and prayer, whether it is protests. And you know, following these activities, the question has come up about CCTV cameras, where the government promised to put CCTV cameras in heights of Aripo. They said the technology, they're looking at it. They're looking at it. But we asked in Parliament, the opposition asked the Minister of that fella name, Fitzgerald Hines. I doesn't even want to call this man Minister of National Security. He's such a failure. But in Parliament, the opposition asked Minister Hines, and he indicated that in Trinidad and Tobago, there were 1,796 CCTV cameras installed in the country, throughout the country. And of them, only 1,063 were fully functional. So he is admitting that over 733 cameras are either not functional or not fully functional. And he doesn't realize how outrageous this is in the face of such exorbitant levels of crime, especially when it comes to women and girls. And when we believe that CCTV cameras will help catch the perpetrators and help the police in their work. And what is the PNM doing? They are laughing. When we ask these questions in Parliament, you don't always get to see it on TV. Them just be kicks in, you know. Them making jokes. Crime is no laughing matter when it happens to you and it happens to your family. Fitzgerald Hines and his entourage of security could bounce down somebody's dog. But he has black vehicles and he has security. We don't. The average citizen in this country is not safe. Women are being raped and murdered and their bodies dumped. And you don't even have CCTV cameras to catch the perpetrators. Serious questions are being asked and the PNM is just on a holiday. So while we continue to call for CCTV cameras to be installed at Heights of Aripo and other areas where we have criminal activity, I want to give the women's arm of this party my commitment that I will continue to support you in your call to ensure that CCTV cameras, street lighting, safe public transportation, and general better security is made a reality. But I tell you, I have very little hope that it will be done under this PNM government. We must return the UNC to government to make our women safer. So Mr. Geometry himself, who thinks that women must be groomed like a golf course, continues to dehumanize the women of this country. Keith Rowley does not have the qualifications or the temperament, given his utterances and his description of women, to be in charge of any gender affairs, any woman and child or children's issues, and in fact, to lead this country. It is time for him and his government to go. He must call the elections. Tonight, I note that a number of our women who spoke are local government councillors, and councillors are the first arm of government that people see. Our UNC councillors have been taking blame for non-performers like Rohan Sinanan and this new fella, the Pocket Square man. I always say pocket squares don't fix potholes. I know for a fact that councillors take money out of their salary. Councillors throw barbecue and raise funds to buy material to patch holes in their electoral districts. You, our councillors, have been to the forefront. And I want to tell you, even though they don't say it, the PNM councillors are ashamed of their government as well. They themselves are ready for the PNM to go. Our corporations are well placed to target programs that could reach into communities to assist women, to reach out to vulnerable groups and those in need. I don't know about how the PNM councillors operate, but I know that Kamla Prasad-Bissessar has led our UNC councillors to be on the ground and responsive, whether it is in flood, natural disaster, criminal activity, repairing road, assisting families, they go the extra mile. And any of our communities where there's a vulnerability to violence against women, driven by social practices, the norms and the structures of our wider societies, programs are needed for our councillors, our local government representatives, our NGOs to reach out and help protect our women. But what is Rowley doing with local government? Instead, he wants to start to collect property tax. So they allocate funding for local government, and then they never release it, and they tell you, no money, boy, things tight. And they said, if they bring property tax, you will get money to patch your roads. Listen now, man. I am standing firm with the position of the United National Congress that now is not the time for property tax. Taxes should not be raised at a time when the hardships citizens and businesses are facing because of the COVID pandemic, and even before the COVID pandemic because of the PNM's incompetence, where people have been banning their belly, where businesses have been shut down, where jobs have been lost, and people are being sent home by the incompetence of the PNM. Don't blame COVID, eh? Because long before COVID, people were losing their jobs. Long before COVID, businesses were seeing hardship under this PNM government. And thanks to Kamla Persad-Bissessar, thanks to the UNC for exposing the government and their incompetence. Thanks to Kamla Persad-Bissessar for exposing the lie when the government say they have no money, because they could find money for boat and paintings, but they can't find money for laptops and food for children in this country. Faris getting his rent every month. Children can't get box lunch in school. That is how ridiculous it is. This PNM-led government has declared war on the women of Trinidad and Tobago. Tonight, the women of the UNC stand in defense of the women of our nation. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, as a prime minister, as a woman, ensured that our women were empowered meaningfully during her term in office. It wasn't just a superficial achievement that a woman became prime minister. Under her prime ministership, mothers had extended maternity leave. We had the baby grants for young mothers. We had equal pay in URP in a state-run institution for the first time. In education, Trinidad and Tobago was named the 8th best place for a girl child to be born under Kamla Persad-Bissessar. The United Nations recognized Kamla Persad-Bissessar as a prime minister who instituted free universal education for every citizen, and that is from preschool, primary, secondary, and tertiary education were all free. So as women, we have a woman who is leader of the UNC, a true prime minister of the people who stood and fought for us when she was prime minister. And I am telling you, the PNM has declared war on women. We must all stand together and fight back for our country. We cannot allow the PNM to continue with what it is doing. We have a responsibility to stand for those who are blind and cannot see what the PNM is doing. But I also want to tell you, you feel some of them PNM people, they're taking everything lying down, they're staying quiet. They're eating grass and they're still saying great is the PNM. I want to tell you, a lot of them is just shame, they're ashamed to say anything. So we must go brave. We have to get rid of the PNM. We have to return the United National Congress to government. We have to return justice, equality, and food on the table for every citizen to a reality in Trinidad and Tobago. Tonight, we only heard some of the women, and I pay tribute to our women who are activists, who are in every community, who help us reach to those most vulnerable. And even in opposition, the UNC is performing and continues to perform. I also want to commend those who have held firm during the COVID pandemic. While we were doing outreach led by our political leader, providing food hampers, providing cooked meals, reaching out to children and families everywhere, now that the COVID restrictions are being lifted and we could socialize a little more, as a UNC family, I look forward to seeing you at the events our chairlady mentioned earlier. So this Friday, the Friday coming, which is the 5th of August, there's the family fun day at Fun Splash Water Park in Derby. I am really looking forward to seeing our UNC family come together in person. So we're going out to Derby from 12 noon, and I always like to boast because there's a corridor cookout competition. They're going to have a choker and chow competition, and I always put people on notice when it comes to food. St. Augustine will be coming, so I'm looking forward to the competition. But I just want to see the members of my UNC family together again. And then 2 weeks after that, on August the 20th and 21st, which is a Saturday and Sunday, we have the UNC 8-a-side football competition. Now this is being held at the Center of Excellence in Macoya, which is in St. Augustine constituency. So I am really looking forward to having the entire UNC family under the patronage of our political leader. I want to thank her for a successful UNC cricket competition, the knockout thing that we had in Wilson Road recently. And all of this is part of our fellowship and bringing our young people and our UNC family together. So I am looking forward to seeing you at the Derby Water Park on the 5th of August, and on the Center of Excellence for the 8-a-side football on the 20th and 21st. Come on the both days, the 20th and the 21st of August. Come on the both days. Even if your team get knocked out, you come into Lime and let's enjoy our company as we go forward and as we continue to build. The United National Congress is strong. We must remain united. We have a responsibility to remove the PNM from government and to return the UNC to lead government in this country. I want to say a special thank you to the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar for this special edition of the TNT Speaks Women in the UNC. Thank you very much.